Let's now turn our attention to the Aegean Sea and the peoples who emerged there during the Bronze Age. We are not yet going to examine what we typically think of as mainland Greece, Athens, Sparta, and the classical city-states. We will return to those later. For now, our focus is on the Aegean world and the civilizations that developed within it. The Aegean Sea is dotted with hundreds of islands, stretching southward to the large island of Crete. Human settlement on Crete dates as early as 7000 BCE, and by the early Bronze Age, a distinctive and prosperous culture had begun to flourish there. By around 2200 BCE, Crete had developed a highly advanced civilization known as the Minoan civilization, named after the mythical king Minos. Urban centers began to appear on Crete around this time. The largest and most important of these was Knossos, a vast palace complex first constructed around 2000 BCE. The palace was enormous and may have housed thousands of people. Interestingly, we do not fully understand the political organization of Minoan Crete. The absence of defensive fortifications suggests that the cities were not frequently at war with one another and may have belonged to a single political system or kingdom. The heavy movement of goods and people between cities reinforces this interpretation. Despite its importance, much about Minoan civilization remains mysterious. One major reason is that we cannot read their writing. The Minoans used a script known as Linear A, which has never been deciphered. As a result, we rely almost entirely on archaeological evidence to understand their society. What that evidence reveals is a primarily agricultural economy. Minoans cultivated crops such as figs, olives, grapes, beans, and peas, and they raised livestock. Some of these products, especially figs and legumes, were likely specialty goods traded throughout the Mediterranean. Minoans also produced fine pottery and jewelry, particularly in urban centers. Above all, Minoan prosperity depended on maritime trade. Crete occupied a strategic position in the eastern Mediterranean, allowing it to serve as a commercial hub connecting Egypt, the Near East, and mainland Greece. The wealth of Minoan cities appears to have derived from both their own agricultural output and their role as middlemen in Mediterranean trade networks. Reconstructing Minoan religion is difficult and must be done cautiously, as we rely primarily on artifacts and later mythological echoes preserved in Greek tradition. Even so, some patterns are clear. The Minoans appear to have worshipped fertility deities. One prominent cult likely centered on a male god who was born and died annually, symbolizing the agricultural cycle of planting and harvest. This type of dying and rising god may have been influenced by religious traditions from the Near East. Another fertility cult seems to have focused on animal fertility and is associated with the famous snake goddess figurines, statues of a female figure holding snakes and surrounded by animals. These figures appear throughout Crete, especially between 1550 and 1450 BCE, and suggest the importance of fertility, renewal, and the natural world in Minoan belief. Although the Minoans prospered for centuries, they eventually faced catastrophic challenges. Around 1550 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption occurred on the island of Santorini, Thera, roughly 40 miles north of Crete. This eruption is considered one of the most powerful in human history. The explosion tore much of the island apart, destroying a Bronze Age civilization that lived there and sending violent tsunamis across the eastern Mediterranean. Some scholars estimate that waves striking Crete may have reached hundreds of feet in height. Because many Minoan cities were coastal trading centers, and because the economy depended heavily on maritime commerce, these tsunamis may have severely disrupted or even crippled Minoan civilization. We know that by around 1450 BCE, Minoan Crete was either conquered or brought under the control of the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece. At this point, Linear A disappears, replaced by Linear B, a script which can be read and which records an early form of Greek. This transition marks the end of the Minoan civilization as an independent cultural force and the beginning of Mycenaean dominance in the Aegean.